journey is definitely back to the stage. You know, if I've said this though, if there was a monetary
Yes,
draw for me,
I'm in.
I'm all in. For me,
What's up, Desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back for another daily bodybuilding news live, and we have a ton of news stories for you guys today. We're going to be focusing on the New York Pro lineup. It's growing. We've got a ton of names actually added to this lineup as well, and we had a bit of confirmation from Sergio Oliva Jr. that he will be attempting to compete in the 2023 New York Pro and Cali Pro as well, if he does obviously get those travel bans lifted as well. And also we've got updates from Nick Trigili of Bodybuilding and BS. What's going on with his channel right now? Will he get it back? Will he not get it back? We've got a bit of information on that. Plus Martin Fitzwater lifting some insane weights in a recent update from him, and much more. Also, we've got two of the guys doing the New York Pro posing down against each other in the gym. So this is a really cool update, and we're going to analyze that and go pose by pose with those guys as well. Those two men in question are Tonio Burton, who's also been added to the New York Pro lineup. We've got some information on that, plus also the owner of Flavor Gang, Ross Flanagan. So let's get straight into this one, guys. And I've basically been writing up a New York Pro competitor list. So guys who I've either heard are doing the New York Pro, and I've done it for all these other contests as well, so we can stay on top of who's doing these shows. Because in past years, I've sort of had the competitors, you know, oh, I think this guy's doing it, I think this guy's doing it, and then you forget names. But I wanted to do this, so at least we've got some competitors, and the New York Pro lineup is definitely shaping up to be a good one. And also, if you are watching live as well or on replay, give the video a thumbs up, smash that like button, also subscribe and hit the notification bell button. And shout out to you guys in the comments right now. We've got EP09, got a great YouTube channel. Shout out to him. I actually watched his video this morning, so shout out, man. Very good one. Yeah, a ton of you guys getting in the comments. Richard Ratner, shout out. A whole bunch of you guys. Anyway, let's get into this. Boston Phil as well, I mentioned him too before. All right, so let's get into this. So New York Pro lineup in the open, we've got Max Charles doing it. Eric Wood, he's a new name added to it. We've got a physique update from him in this video. Tonio Burton, who's I think going to blow some people away this year. Carlos Thomas Jr. I don't know if his Instagram's been taken down or what's going on, or if he's just going quiet basically to focus on this contest, you know, sort of how LeBron James does at 0 Dark 30 when he goes into the NBA playoffs. Then we've got Joe Seaman. We've got an update from him as well, I believe. Stuart Sutherland, who's making his pro debut there. Nate Spear, Ross Flanagan, who obviously poses down, like I said, next to Tonio Burton. We've got the video of that, about a 2-minute clip, which is, I've got to tell you, he's looking damn crazy. And Sergio Oliva Jr. in the latest episode of Bodybuilding University. I encourage you guys to check it out. It's on the channel right now with Sergio Oliva Jr. We've got Nathan Diashi in there, and we've got Aaron Pilates, who's a top 10 212 Olympia competitor back from 2019, who I think is going to really shock some people in the 212 as well, either this year or next. And then in the 212s, we've got Kerif Badjo, who we've got a physique update from him in this video. Nate Tello, who's good friends with Jose Raymond, and he's making his 212 pro debut, I believe. And we've got Yang Seung Yup. So we've got all those guys who's Mil Sachev athletes. So we've got some really good competitors, and I'm impressed with how this list is looking. But let's feature Eric Wood and his latest physique update. He's prepped by Patrick Tour. This is in MI40 gym today. I got to tell you, I believe this guy might be making his pro debut as well. Actually, I don't know if it's his pro debut or not, so I've got to check that. We actually just followed each other on social media, but he's looking, I mean, look at this. He's aesthetic, or at least reasonably aesthetic, and yeah, just has some really, like that, most muscular. This is actually an MI40 gym, and that's Ben Pekulski-esque. If you go look at a most muscular from Ben Pekulski, he's got that sort of look, but Eric looks like he has a little bit more muscle on top, and I think Ben Pekulski had a little bit more muscle, I don't want to say down below, but in his legs. So he's looking really good right now. But I want to go to the physique updates from there's 3 men in this video. I'm sorry, I don't know the other guy's name. Apologies. But Tonio Burton and Ross Flanagan posing down next to each other in the gym. hitting some different poses there, so we can't analyze it. So in the middle, we have Ross Flanagan. On the left, we have Tonio Burton. And sorry for the dude on the right, I do not know your name, unfortunately. But as you can see, Ross Flanagan has some wild legs. And as you can see, Tonio Burton reveals his legs there. And that's one thing that, you know, Ross Flanagan has on Tonio Burton. Tonio Burton isn't in good lighting there. He's obviously got the darker complexion, but Tonio actually has wild legs when you look at this from the front. Very, very crazy. And guys, get your questions in. Like the video if you are tuning in live as well. And I will get to those at the end of the video and maybe halfway through as well. So you can see there, hitting a most muscular. Both men hitting a hands on hips. There's other angles we get. And I've got to tell you, Ross in the middle. He competed last year. I know he got 9th in the Indy Pro. Shout out EP09. I would have checked that out, but you already have that news for me in your video. This is where the difference is, where Tonio really does leap ahead. Now, the video is angled. Tonio is closer to the camera. It does make a big difference. Before, Ross Flanagan was a little closer to the camera, but Tonio Burton's back is absolutely wild. If he brings those hamstrings and glutes in, that's the only concern for me right now of Tonio, is that he brings in good enough conditioning in those areas. Because in the back right now, you got to say, really, Ross Flanagan overall is a little bit more crisp right now, but Tonio definitely has the density and that thickness through that back. It's just absolutely wild. Now, the side tricep, Tonio just needs to tighten up that midsection a little bit through that pose. Outside of that, it's looking, you know, from a side leg as well, it needs to be a little bit tighter. Side chest, very impressed with Ross Flanagan's hamstring hang on this one. Very, very impressive. Tonio is obviously very, very dense in that upper body though, which would be hard to beat. But the fact that Tonio is a Mr Olympia competitor in the open now, he's won 212 shows, he's won at least 1 or 2 open shows. That front lat spread, look at that on Tonio, that's absolutely wild. And I think if Ross Flanagan was standing against and posing against last year's version of Tonio Burton, I think it would be, in terms of size, I think it'd be very, very close. Now I've got a most muscular. Also, this video is courtesy of Bodybuilders Without Borders, so shout out to, I believe his name is Daniel from there. We're getting to see a bit of a most muscular. One thing I'll say about Tonio as well on that most muscular is I want to see Tonio rip his midsection in, try to hold it in, because it's one thing you don't notice when you're actually hitting the most muscular yourself. When you're looking in the mirror, you're looking at your chest, your traps, your shoulders, your biceps. But the midsection is something he needs to pull in a little bit more. So overall on this most muscular, I would say Ross Flanagan's winning that one, because you see the quads, his midsection's pulled in really, really tight. So hopefully he doesn't discount that and he pulls it in all the way. But Tonio Burton is going to be a threat this year. He's like a new version of Dexter Jackson crossed with Michael Lockett. I always sort of make that comparison, but very, very impressed with these guys in this most recent physique update. And Ross Flanagan looks like he's going to be in great condition, as long as he doesn't pull down too far or mess up his peak or something like that. Yeah, as your EP09 saying, you know, Ross is a beast. Boston Phil, Tonio looking thick. It's going to be a really, really cool show. So the New York Pro, if these two were the top 2 alone, I would be like excited for the show. So the fact that, you know, you got these two plus a whole bunch of other names, which we'll go back to now, it is super, super exciting. But let me know what you think about this lineup for the 2023 New York Pro. Now, I've got to pull up my screen. I've got to share it, and I actually denied it before, so I'm hoping this works while I'm live. I'm just going to share Instagram so I can bring a few more updates to you guys. Yes, it appears it's going to work. So, we've got Coach Little Joe, which is Joe Seaman. He's got some recent updates on his Instagram page where he's looking absolutely fantastic in terms of just overall size. The only concern I suppose I'd have for Joe, he's got some training footage here. The only concern I have is some of that conditioning. Like, is he going to have it through the legs? This is 2 days ago, 284 pounds at 4 weeks out. So the only concern I have is conditioning. You can see the hamstrings are coming in. You can see there's some details, but he definitely needs to get harder than this in that last 4 weeks. But overall, I'd say his physique's actually looking more aesthetic than it previously has. I was most impressed with his pro debut, but overall, you can see the size is there. If he can bring this in sharp without obviously flattening out, he is going to be dangerous. Not necessarily for the win in this contest, I don't believe, but you never know. You get a really big guy that's really shredded, we know what that sort of leads to. So Joe Seaman, overall, very, very impressed with his latest physique updates. But let me know what you think about Joe Seaman in the comments. Now, another man, like I said, check out the latest episode of Bodybuilding University where Sergio talks, at the start of the episode as well, he talks about which shows he's going to try to do and gives a lot of really good information about sort of, I suppose, what's going on with him. And he's been in condition for a while, so he's got to be, I haven't talked to him about this, but he's got to be hurting at least somewhat. But this is crazy. This is a new update posted 7 hours ago. And you can see, obviously, pages like Buys and Tries getting behind Sergio, because I think we're going to see something wild. Can Tonio or Ross or any of these guys beat Sergio Oliva Jr.? I mean, Sergio is looking so wild. I think we have to see a very shredded, dense, maybe a slightly better posing version of Tonio, with Sergio being a bit off for Tonio to beat him. But I do not want to rule out Tonio, because I can see a scenario. I mean, he beat Justin Rodriguez last year, and I don't think many people had Tonio Burton going into that show beating Justin Rodriguez. I think I had Tonio winning that show prior to it. I think I picked him. Sorry, Tonio, if I didn't. I got that wrong. But this is wild. 5'11". I mean, these other guys aren't that tall. So if Sergio does look the same size as these guys in physique updates, on stage he's going to look like an absolute monster. So yeah, as you can see, you guys are very impressed with how Sergio is looking. And the Red Loop asking, anyone even know what Max is looking like? No, that's obviously Max Charles. I'm not sure what he's looking like. And Richard Ratner is happy to see Max doing the show as well. And you guys, MVP, saying Sergio looking crazy. EP09 says he's been lean for so long, I have concerns with Sergio holding for the peak. I think Chris Aceto is a fantastic coach, so I don't think it's going to be a huge concern for Sergio. But there is always that concern there where you're in shape for too long. But I think Chris is smart enough to pull back a bit, and I think Sergio needs to be shredded. I think that's his thing. Conditioning is the one thing he struggled with. So sometimes when you're in condition for a little bit longer, as long as it's not too long, then I think that's probably a good thing for Sergio. But we'll have to wait and see. Or at least Sergio has striations in his face. Yeah, he does. Sergio got to get in the show. How long can he hold this look? Boston Phil. Yeah, some good points there, guys. Appreciate all of that. Now, I've got to search up Kerif Badjo because I didn't pull it up before, but Kerif Badjo is looking extremely, extremely good in the 212s, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be probably right up there in terms of the 212 Olympia. I mean, he has been previously, but he's obviously got a few more years on him, but 4 weeks out looking really, really good. I mean, this, he's got that old man muscle, and it just, you can see the conditioning come through, and that's a so much different look to like a Keon Pearson, who looks so crazy in his recent guest posings. I'm just so overly impressed with Keon and the look he's bringing to the stage. But Kerif Badjo brings something else in terms of that old man muscle, the dryness, and that just sort of look where you only get it from years and years and years of training and just maturity. But look at this. Very, very wide back. I'd love to see these two go against each other in a smaller show this year, but I know Keon's got a little bit longer in terms of his prep. But if Kerif doesn't get the win here, maybe he'll compete on, and maybe we'll see that battle again, which I think we saw last year between Kerif Badjo and Keon Pearson. Now, before we move on, I just want to make sure there's no other physique updates for this one. I don't believe so. So I wanted to mention, before we get to the Flex Lewis and Steve Kuclo story in this video about potentially competing, obviously Flex potentially making a comeback to the stage, which you guys would have seen at the very start of this video if you tuned in live from the get-go, but also Steve Kuclo potentially doing the Masters Olympia. But before I get to that, I want to highlight Martin Fitzwater. Actually, I don't know where this video is. Maybe it's in the Reels section. But Martin posted, I don't know where it is. Maybe it's on his story. Let's look around. Let's try to find this. But Martin posted a video of him. Here we go. Here it is. 190-pound dumbbells for 8 reps on incline as well. Incline is traditionally meant to be harder than a normal flat bench, but Martin makes light work of this. For the first 6 reps, I mean, it sort of dispels any myth that Martin hasn't been training, hasn't been working, because you don't just go back into the gym and rep 190-pound dumbbells like that. 190 pounds, what is it? Divide that by 2.2, it would be, what are we talking, like 80 kilos? Maybe more, 85 kilos. It's a pretty damn impressive weight. So Martin Fitzwater, definitely still in the gym, still smashing it, and I cannot wait to see what Martin brings to the stage either this year or next year. I believe he said next year on my podcast. So we'll probably have to wait till next year to see that. But let's get to the Flex Lewis update in this video and what he has to say about potentially making a comeback, and also what Steve Kuclo has to say about potentially in the future competing at the Masters Olympia. So let's have a look at that.
Coming of the age of 2 years away from Masters. There's a lot of talk about this Masters Olympia. And I don't know if that's something that's been thrown in your face or
it's been asked. Yeah,
it's been asked.
Yeah.
2 years away from that.
It's 40 is the
40.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, my name has been thrown in the mix this year, and I said, let me just dispel this right now. I'm on my own journey. It's definitely back to the stage. You know,
Now, Flex said, and I even used the transcription, he said, I'm on my own journey. It's definitely back to the stage. I messaged Flex as well, and he said, I said, this is about you coming back? And he said, Steve's. But it did sound like the way he said it. I think most people are going to see this and say his journey's back to the stage, or maybe he misspoke or whatever. But he was referring to Steve Kuclo at the time. But he does talk about now, about potentially making a comeback and what it would take. So let's listen on.
I've said this, though. If there was a monetary draw for me, I'm all in. For me, it has to be a 7-figure monetary draw. Yeah. It has to be, because for me to walk away from what I'm doing right now, that's what my sacrifice is, unfortunately.
I truly wish bodybuilding was as fruitful as many of the other sports in the world, like golf and basketball and football. Like the contracts these guys are getting paid. Oh. It's insane.
Even to sit on the bench.
You know, yeah, backup quarterback, you know, but it doesn't matter. It's a shame that the sport never quite got to where it could be.
But you still didn't answer my free.
So Flex says there'd have to be a 7-figure incentive. So for those who don't know, that's $1 million, $1 million plus. So Flex, I don't know if he means there has to be a million in the kitty for a Masters Olympia. There has to be $1 million put up for the Open at the Olympia, or what he exactly means there, but they're talking about the Masters Olympia. So if there's $1 million total prize money for the Open's men's bodybuilding, or split amongst the 212 in the Open, this will get a lot of guys out of the woodwork. Phil Heath mentioned $1 million, or I don't know if he mentioned $1 million, or like Bob said, what's the price? $1 million? And he's like, oh yeah, I'd, you know, sort of sounded like he would come back if there's $1 million up in terms of prize money. And really, we have people that can put this money into it, but it's whether they make the decision to actually do it. We've got Jake Wood. There's guys that love bodybuilding like Patrick Bet-David. He's someone who, you know, the Federation, bodybuilding, someone in there should be approaching this guy, because this guy was literally, he did a video. I don't know if it was who it was with exactly, but he sounded, it was with Wayne DeMilia. He sounded almost upset that he wasn't notified that the Olympia was for sale. Like, hey, I wanted to put my money up there, and potentially Patrick Bet-David could have bought the Olympia. So I think either, you know, Jake Wood or Patrick Bet-David are great people to buy the Olympia, because, you know, during that first year of the pandemic, I don't think we would have had a Mr. Olympia had it been under the ownership of AMI, which is American Media Incorporated. So there is guys out there. I mean, if you put up $1 million in total in prize money to say between the 212 and the Open, and that's a big ask. I know Jake Wood has been literally losing money on bodybuilding the last couple of years. So it's a big ask to ask that. And this could be a first year thing where they have a total of 229,000 amongst all 10 divisions. Do we need that in terms of like split up that much? I don't know. And I don't know what the split up is. And I think competitors want to know. I've heard a rumor that Victor Martinez won't compete because because there's not enough prize money. So if we're able to put up a bit more, because there's no more bodybuilding contracts and things like that, if we're able to put up a bit more to get these, to incentivize these guys to step back on stage, I mean, there has to be an incentive for guys like Flex, for guys like Phil Heath, for guys like Kai Green, for guys like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of names that could jump into this. I mean, guys that are 40 plus, Brandon Curry, we've got William Bonac, we've got Big Rami's coming up on 40. It's so many guys that really, if they think, oh, I can't win an Open Olympia, or it's going to be very, very tough, they're on the cusp of the top 5. But if you get a ton of these legends that have been competing at the top of the Olympia, maybe they're a little bit off their best, but they're all competing against each other for the 300,000, 250,000 prize money for first place, maybe 500, 400,000 amongst the Open guys. I think that'd be enough an incentive. I don't know if that'd be enough to get Flex Lewis back, but they can monetize the way they do. Is Flex has, I believe, enough going on now in terms of been able to get video footage of him, prepping for a contest like this where he can just go, I'm focusing in on that, but there's still revenue streams and publicity and popularity and some sort of a plan from the federation, the people putting on the contest or whatever, for maximum exposure for these guys. And that's what we need. These guys need to see a plan. They need to put in front of them, like, here's the prize money. Here's what we're going to do for you. I mean, put up 100 grand in terms of just pushing out exposure. Like having someone, I would do it. A battle for the Masters Olympia. I would travel around America, not for the craziest amount of money, produce videos, put them out, create huge hype. And that's, I think, better than just putting in another 50, 100 grand of prize money, because these guys are going to get extra exposure, pump out heaps of YouTube shorts, pump out heaps of YouTube videos every single day on a Masters or Mr Olympia channel. And this would build so much hype for the contest. They'd sell more pay-per-views. They're not going to lose as much. And I think moving forward, they can make it a thing where it's a huge event, where there's a huge expo or something attached to the Masters Olympia, or have it as almost like a lead up to the Mr Olympia. Have it on, I don't know, the Thursday, the Wednesday, which sounds like an anticlimactic thing or whatever, or put it on the same weekend as the Olympia, but make it a separate identity, make it huge, have its own, Masters Olympia logo on the stage, and make it a real big thing. And I think we'd be able to get enough guys that hold out and continue their careers, which people say maybe it's unhealthy, maybe it is. But I think a lot of these guys are self-aware enough now, and we saw the recent physique update from Flex Lewis, and he looked absolutely fantastic. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you like to see more money put into the Masters Olympia to blow this thing up and make it huge? The Arnold Classic did it during, the promotion of the contest. It was not very far out, but they upped the prize money by 100K, and look what happened. They made it an epic Arnold Classic, and had that not been done, this Arnold Classic just gone, I believe, would have been a below par Arnold Classic, and it was above par. They really did increase, and the athletes loved it, because they're like, look, they're dumping more money back into it. Shout out to these guys. They looked after us. Everything was on time. We were looked after backstage. When they got there, I'm sure they got like t-shirts and a care package and all that sort of stuff. So I think that we could make this huge now. It's not out of a realm of possibility if it happens this year, but even if we have the contest this year, just say it's not an overwhelming success, we can still make it an overwhelming success next year. But I think we should start off at least with some sort of a bang. It was last minute, but I would love to see that happen. And I think there's smart ways we can go about things. And I think that there are other people. You got the way the Mr Olympia are doing it now with Tarek El-Gindi, Chris Cormier, Tim Wilkins, and those guys, what they do with their show, plus all the other shows they've got as well. You've got obviously the female shows they've got. You've got Fit Rockstar. You've got all those ones. So I think what they're doing is great, and I think they can expand on that without spending huge amounts of money. I mean, look what I do. I've got cheap as green screen, which is worth about $10. I made this image that goes behind me. It's not, I'm not in a studio, like a high price studio. I've got a $20 ring light in front of me, and then I've got a, $300 webcam and another light here. It's on an iMac, so you add up all those costs, it's really not much. And all you have to do is pay some people that know what they're doing, I guess, how to promote and all that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on that. But we've got a bit more from Flex Lewis and Steve Kuclo. And Steve Kuclo now talks about potentially doing Masters Olympia at some point.
Question about Masters Olympia, my friend.
I haven't thought about it yet. You know what? When I'm 40, I might think about it. But I hope at the point when I'm at 40, I don't have to think about, well, do I do this show for 100 grand? And
I'm trying to get some clickbait, you okay, Steve? I'm going to ask you again.
I'm competing at the 2025 Mr. Olympia
there
Masters.
We go. There we go.
Oh, there we go. We're back. Sorry, I just don't know if I muted that, unmuted it, or what I actually did there. But hopefully you guys are hearing me. Just let me know if you are hearing me. And if you haven't liked the video yet and you are watching this one live, do like the video. So some super interesting news there. Very, very much excited to see what actually happens with this 2023 bodybuilding season and the Masters Olympia if Flex ever comes back to the stage. I mean, his waist is looking really, really tight in those recent physique updates, which we just saw the other day. And super excited for that. Now, I'm really excited as well for the New York Pro. That one's going to be absolutely awesome. If you didn't catch the start of the video, he's the tentative competitor list from what we've heard, who's confirmed and whatnot as well. But you look who might be the top 5 there, and we might see some more names jump in. I'll just name 5 guys that are pretty good. So no discredit to anyone I don't name out of the open. Sergio Oliva Jr., if he's able to get, obviously, his travel visa. Sergio Oliva Jr. Ross Flanagan, who looked insane posing next to Tonio Burton. Nate Spears in there as well. He could definitely jump in there. Stuart Sutherland, so that's a 3rd guy. I think he's going to do really well in his pro debut. Carlos Thomas Jr., his pro debut as well. So that's 4 guys. And then Tonio Burton. And that's not including Max Charles, Eric Wood, Nate Spear, Joe Seaman, a whole bunch of really good guys. So I think we're going to see a reasonably stacked top 5, a pretty good top 10 as well. There's obviously names that we haven't, that aren't on this list right now. This is a list that I've just made up myself. But also there's going to be a live stream for that event as well. So you can see in the top corner, it's www.ny-pro.com, and I'll be purchasing that live stream, and I'll be doing a live for it as well. So a live watch party with you guys, so you guys can tune in to that one. So make sure, I'm going to be doing it for every contest this year. So I think there's 12 contests in 13 weeks or something crazy like that. So I'm going to have a lot of weekends where I'm up through the night here in Australia doing it for you guys. So if you do appreciate all that sort of stuff, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of all my contest coverage coming to Desktop Bodybuilding in 2023. So shout out to you guys that have been in the chat. These videos are growing, so I'm going to continue them. And if I continue to get support, then they're just going to continue. They're going to get better. There's going to be more videos. And the goal is 2 a day, 2 videos a day, at least in some form, whether it's a short and a live, or it's a Bodybuilding University and another one. And we've got a new show as well on Bodybuilding University called Bodybuilding Trivia. Now let's get to a few of your comments and questions on here. So you guys have been awesome in this live. Here we go, the Red Loop. Big Zay, thoughts on Young Sung Yup. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He looks like he might push Kerif this year at New York. He looks super dense. Yeah, he looks awesome. Like a lot of these Asian competitors, they have just insane dimensions, small waist, big legs. I mean, they just look absolutely crazy. So I think he's going to do very well. Will his conditioning be enough to push a Kerif Bajo? I'm not sure. But regardless, I think he's going to do really well. So he's going to be top 2, I believe, no matter what. Here we go. Peter Bravestrong. Love the longer videos, Xavier. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm trying to do about 20 to 35 minutes per video on here. Appreciate the love. Here we go. From really, Sergio, Tonio, and Carlos, top 3. Yeah, I mean, look at that top 3. If that's the top 3 in New York, that is very solid. And the shows later in the year, I think, are going to be even better, which is wild to say. It's absolutely wild. Red Loop loves Steve Kuclo. Steve Kuclo is man's man. Yeah, he's a man's man for sure. He loves, I believe he lives in Texas. What else have you guys got? Here we go. Ronald says, pro bodybuilders make their money through endorsements, sponsorships, selling subs, modeling, etc. Competing opens those doors for them. No money in comps unless you win at the bigger shows. Yeah, but I think there should be a little bit more money. I mean, we can do something more with the sponsorship of shows. There could be a federation-wide type thing where these people that put on the shows don't have to pay maybe these big sanction fees, where the federation gets a bit of the money and then some get split up with the promoters. I don't know. There has to be something, I think, where we can get more money in. If we get some major big sponsors that sponsor the federation or sponsor some of these big shows, I think it can sort of grow and we can push it across all the shows. I know they do that with the NPC shows here in Australia, or NPC, IFB, whatever you want to call it. And they sponsor, all the state shows. So yeah, I don't know how that exactly works, but I think there's individual show sponsors, and then there's sponsors that sponsor the entire lot of the shows. So MVP, still don't get why Kai Green is still heavy on drugs. So that's something that I often wonder about. So that's why I've always believed that he might make a comeback, because health-wise, it doesn't make sense to stay so big. That's why I'd like to see Kai come back, and maybe he's just leaving the door open to potentially come back, or maybe he's just doing it for promotion and tease us all. Really says, damn, I thought that was an LED behind me. Nah, literally a green screen. I think when I wave my hand, you can probably see the green around it, but then I stop. Looks pretty good. There's no point getting anything because it is literally, I mean, I've sort of pulled the curtain back, haven't I? If you saw the setup, you'd be probably pretty depressed, but Same as Dennis James' show and all those guys. Green screen. Peter Bravestrong said, why would you bother prepping for more than one show a year when there's no money in it? The cycle alone will cost more than what they could potentially win. That's the thing. There should, I mean, people were saying, oh, Ian Valier, I mean, if there's shows back to back to back, these guys should have no question whether they're doing it or not, because the money should be, and the promotion and the publicity should be enough of an incentive for these guys to do show after show. Is that healthy? You can argue that. But there's, you know, some guys do a show when there's a show the next weekend, a couple of states over, that pays $10,000, and they're like, it's not worth it for me. It has to be 15 or 20. It has to be worth it for these guys. I mean, at least it's been $10,000 for a long time. Why can't we get more sponsorship money? Why can't we make the minimum 15K? It just at least have some sort of a step up. I don't know. Yeah, Boston Phil Flex knows his worth. Yeah, for sure. EP09, 1 million for Flex to compete is probably a pay cut compared to the Dragon's Lair. I'm not sure. I know his memberships are expensive, but that's what I like about it. It's more exclusive, and I can't wait to go check that out. Fitzwater's not homeless. Trigili full of shit. Glad Clowns pulled. Okay, so you're obviously glad that Trigili lost his channel, and I'm going to get to that news in just a second as well, guys. I just want to leave that one for the end. Martin definitely has a great physique, 100%. Awesome. So I want to get to the Nick Trigili news as well, which he sort of filled me in on a little bit. So he's got, basically, he said, you know, I want to be careful about what I say because I am live and I can't cut it out later. But basically, there is several methods that Nick Trigili can go through right now in terms of trying to get his channel back. There's one right now that he's in, and he should know within a few days. So potentially Nick Trigili could get his channel back within a few days. That's still a potential thing. So there's many outlets. He doesn't know, I don't think, if he will get his channel back or not, but there is definite potential there to get his channel back. Otherwise, he would not be pursuing all these avenues. So there's several avenues he can try in terms of trying to get his YouTube channel back. And I believe he has spoken to YouTube now as well. So that's the update for you guys on Nick Trigili's channel. It's nothing crazy, but it is enough to know that he's not just like throwing his hands up and been like, it's done now. There is potential for him to get his channel back, whether you guys like it or not. Some people are insanely happy his channel's gone. And is it a positive if his channel is gone? I want to ask you guys that, because a certain level of negativity brought on certain guys in the industry that perhaps, I think there's some guys that don't warrant it. I mean, I'm a big supporter of Martin Fitzwater and the way he supports me behind the scenes. I mean, he's got a sort of a bad rap, and I know people have a bad opinion of Martin. And Martin has done things, said things that have been a bit unsavory and publicly, and he knows that, and he admits to that. But it feels like he doesn't get a second chance based on that, and a few other guys as well that I think have been a little harshly, what would you call it? I can't think of a word, but he's been a little harsh on some people, and he knows what he's doing as well. He knows that it's going to come with backlash and all those sorts of things. So Nick Trigili does what he does. It's a very smart way to grow a channel. You look at Stephen A. Smith in the NBA, or in sports media on Sports Center and all those other channels on ESPN. He's controversial. He yells at the camera. He goes, he's sort of like more like a Greg Doucette in that sort of a way, and it sells. This dude gets paid amazing money. So to be a controversial figure, a polarizing figure in any industry in terms of the media, is a smart move. Do I think Nick could do it slightly different, slightly better? Absolutely I do. I think he definitely could. Sometimes when it's a little bit too personal, I think there should be maybe retractions, apologies, because I know a lot of these top media guys have to do that sort of thing when they do either make mistakes or say something too far. So yeah, anyway, that's my opinion on it. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching another Bodybuilding University live. And let me know what you think about the length of this one as well. I'm like 35 minutes deep on this now. But seem to get more viewers, so it's much appreciated, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you, like I said, if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked the video, whether you're watching live or on replay, make sure you do that. I'm going to get to the poll results quickly because I actually just remembered that. Hopefully it doesn't play this out loud. It probably will. for a second at least. But I want to get to the poll results and let you guys know what you voted on about FlexSource making a comeback to the bodybuilding stage, potentially. Would you like to see it? Would you like to see FlexSource make a comeback to the bodybuilding stage? You guys have to vote right now if you've not voted, because it is 50-50. 115 votes. I don't even know how that works. 115 and it's 50-50. There has to be one more on one side. So if you haven't voted, vote now, because I want to try to split this. So only half of you guys want to see FlexSource come back. I mean, I want to see him come back. If I could vote, I'd vote yes. So let's say it's 51% yes and 49% no. There we go. It's just gone to 51% yes and 49% no. Shout out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Bodybuilding Daily News Live once again. Thanks for voting the poll. Thanks for commenting. And I'll talk to you guys soon. If you want to comment as well, once this goes up straight after it goes live, it'd be much appreciated. It does help the algorithm too. So once I end this, jump on there, comment and say comment for the algo, or like thumbs up or whatever, and I'll comment back to you guys. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. I'm Xavier Wills. This is Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are out.